Imagine a plant that renders the global fertilizer industry obsolete. In 1975, the National Academy of Sciences called it a supermarket on a single stalk. One organism, 5 distinct foods, more protein than soy, more resilience than any commercial crop in your pantry. Yet 50 years later, its name has been scrubbed from the public consciousness. While the fertilizer industry generates $200 billion a year by selling you dependence, this plant offers a different path. It doesn't ask for chemicals. It doesn't wait for a supply chain. It mines nitrogen directly from the air, pulling life out of the void and fixing it into the soil. One path creates revenue. One path creates independence. You already know which one they funded. This is the winged bean, Sulfocarpus tetragonalobus. To the industry, it's a threat to the margin. To the archive, it is a buried masterpiece. In 1975, Dr. Noel Vietmeyer and a team of elite botanists released a report that should have changed the world. They found a plant where every single inch is a resource. The pods are electric green, crisp, and winged. The leaves taste like spinach, the flowers like mushrooms. And the tubers, they possess the creaminess of a potato with 10 times the protein. For a moment, the world listened. Trials began in the Philippines. Programs expanded across Africa. It was the green gold of the tropics. Then the silence began. No blight killed the crops, no scientific failure occurred. The funding simply vanished. Research stations were shuttered. A plant that could end hunger was treated like a corporate secret. Because you cannot monetize a plant that refuses to die and feeds itself. If you want to reclaim this independence, you must follow the protocol. First, understand the climate. This is a child of the sun. It thrives in heat and humidity, but the archive has found varieties that adapt to the southern United States and Mediterranean zones. Second, the scarification. The seeds are armor-plated. You must soak them for 24 hours or nick the coat to wake the life inside. Third, the support. These are climbers. Give them a trellis and they will build you a vertical fortress of food. Finally, the harvest. Do not wait. Pick the pods when they are young and tender. Dig the tubers only after the vines begin to yellow. You are paying for what this plant gives away for free. You pay for nitrogen. The bean breathes it. You pay for protein. The bean builds it. You pay for seeds. The bean multiplies them. The industry thrives on your forgetfulness. But the archive never closes. Seek the seeds. Bury the dependence. Share this record before it is filed away again. The archive is now locked. The archive opens. In 1975, a group of elite scientists at the National Academy of Sciences looked at a single plant and saw the end of world hunger. They called it a supermarket on a stalk. Then they went silent. To understand why, you have to follow the money. The modern agricultural system is built on one principle: dependence. You buy the seeds, you buy the synthetic nitrogen, you buy the chemical shield. Every year, forever. That is the model. That is how the empire breathes. Now look at the winged bean. It pulls nitrogen straight from the air and injects it into the soil. No fertilizer needed. It produces seeds that breed true season after season. No annual purchase. It is naturally armed against pests. No chemical intervention. Do you see the problem? This plant does not create customers. It creates independence, and independence is the enemy of revenue. One path creates revenue. One path creates independence. Consider what gets the funding. Soybeans genetically engineered to survive a specific poison. Who wins? The company selling both the poison and the seed. Patented varieties that make it a crime to save your own harvest. Who wins the boardrooms? Not the farmers. You cannot patent a plant that has been wild for 10,000 years. You cannot sell nitrogen to a crop that breathes it for free. You cannot control a man who can feed himself from a single fence line. The winged bean was not forgotten. It was shelved. Because in a system where profit is the only metric, a self-sustaining miracle is a disaster. The archive never closes. If you choose the path of independence, you must master the plant. Here is the protocol for the winged bean. First, the seeds. They are 40% protein. That is higher than chicken. Roast them like peanuts, grind them into flour, or press them for an oil that rivals the best soybean extracts. Second, the greens. The leaves are not just garnish. They contain 7% protein, triple the density of spinach. Eat them raw in the field or steam them for a meal that actually sustains you. Third, the flowers. They are sweet, edible, and rich in vitamin A. a survival crop that tastes like a delicacy. Fourth, the pods, the four-wing signature. Pick them young at 6 inches. Stir-fry them fresh. But remember this, nature does not wait for global shipping. These pods must be used within 48 hours of the harvest. And finally, the roots. Dig them up. They are tubers with more protein than potatoes or yams, a hidden starch reserve beneath the soil. Every part of this plant is an exit ramp from the industrial machine. They buried the report in 1975 because they knew what happens when the world stops buying. You have the data. You have the seeds. The archive remains open. Decide which path you will walk. The archive opens. $200 billion. That is the annual revenue of the global fertilizer industry. An industry built on the premise that your soil is broken, that nature is insufficient, that you must pay to survive. But in 1975, a National Academy of Sciences report revealed a threat to that revenue. A single plant. A supermarket on a stalk. The winged bean. For 2,000 years, it thrived in Papua New Guinea. In the Philippines, they call it sigarilyas. In Malaysia, kacang botol. While the West focused on monocultures that bleed the earth dry, these communities held a secret. Look at the roots. They aren't just anchors. They are chemical laboratories. Inside tiny nodules, rhizobium bacteria perform a miracle. They pull nitrogen straight from the air and inject it into the earth. You don't buy fertilizer, you grow it. One path creates revenue. One path creates independence. The archive never closes. It only waits to be rediscovered. Every inch of this organism is fuel, the leaves. Continuous harvests of greens. The flowers, they bloom for months, tasting like mushrooms. The pods, crisp-winged and nutrient-dense. The seeds, high-protein, storable for years. And then, the hidden prize. Underground, the winged bean develops tubers, a root vegetable with 20% protein. That is 10 times the protein of a potato. It tastes like a nutty yam. It is a complete food system from a single seed. To reclaim this independence, follow the protocol. First, scarify the seeds. Their coat is a fortress. Nick it or soak it for 24 hours to signal the start. Plant in warm soil with a sturdy trellis, and this plant is a climber. It seeks the sun. Harvest the pods early while they are supple and snap easily. For the tubers, wait until the end of the season when the vine begins to fade. If the harvest is too great, blanch and freeze. Save the dried seeds. You are no longer a consumer, you are a curator. Colonial systems dismissed this as primitive. They wanted cash crops. They wanted markets. They didn't want you to have a garden that repairs itself. But the knowledge survived. It survived in the markets of Jakarta. It survived in the memories of a 78-year-old grandmother in Manila who told us, plant this at all costs. The 1975 report was ignored because you cannot tax a plant that feeds a village for free. Industrial agriculture didn't fail to see the winged bean. It chose to look away. Now the choice is yours. You can buy their chemicals, or you can plant a revolution. The archive stays open. Through you, the archive opens. In 1975, the National Academy of Sciences released a report that should have changed the world. They called it a supermarket on a single stalk, a plant that pulls nitrogen straight from the air, making expensive chemical fertilizers obsolete. They called it the winged bean. But look around your local grocery store. It isn't there. You won't find it in the seed aisles of big box retailers. Why? Because you cannot sell fertilizer to a man whose garden feeds itself. One path creates revenue. One path creates independence. The industry chose revenue. The archive remembers the truth. Sophocarpus tetragonalobus. It is a climbing vine, a vigorous predator of the vertical space reaching 15 feet into the sky. Its leaves are deep green, trifoliate, waxy to the touch. The flowers are a haunting shade of blue and purple. But the giveaway is the pod. 4 distinct wings, rippled edges looking like a relic from a prehistoric age. When you dig beneath the surface, you find the secret starchy tubers with white nutty flesh. Every part of this plant is edible. Every part is a threat to the status quo. To reclaim this lost knowledge, you must follow the protocol. First, the geography. This is a child of the tropics. If you live in zones 9 through 11, Florida, Texas, Hawaii, you are in the safe zone. Direct sow after the last frost. If you are in zones 7 or 8, the clock is against you. Start your seeds indoors 6 weeks early. You need a long summer, at least 150 days, if you want to harvest the tubers. For those in zone 6 and below, you will need the protection of a heated greenhouse. It is difficult, but for independence, it is worth the effort. Second, the cultivation. Do not overfeed this plant. It is its own laboratory. It fixes nitrogen into the soil. If you add high nitrogen fertilizer, you will get a wall of leaves but zero food. Give it a strong trellis. Give it 6 hours of sun. Keep the soil moist but never drowned. Third, the sourcing. You will not find these at the corporate centers. Look to Baker Creek, look to small Etsy heritage growers, or visit your local Asian market. The dried beans in the spice aisle, they are often viable. Plant them. The timeline is precise. Germination in 2 weeks. Flowers in 2 months. Pods shortly after. The tubers. The final prize require 5 months of patience. Safety is simple. Cook the seeds as you would any dried bean. Raw consumption is for the birds. The fire makes them fuel for humans. This plant wasn't made invisible through a conspiracy of noise. It was buried in silence. Every winged bean you plant is a vote against a system designed to keep you dependent on a supply chain that hates you. Every pod you harvest is a reclamation of a future they tried to cancel in 1975. You aren't just gardening. You are conducting an investigation into your own freedom. The archive never closes. Imagine a plant that builds its own fertilizer from thin air. While you pay $40 for a bag of synthetic nitrogen, this bean is pulling it for free from the atmosphere. They call it the supermarket on a stalk. In 1975, the National Academy of Sciences released a report. Noel Vietmeyer and a team of elite scientists didn't just find a crop, they found a miracle. But miracles are bad for business. The archive opens. One path creates revenue. One path creates independence. The system chose revenue. I'm choosing to show you the other way. Meet Sophocarpus tetragonalobus, the winged bean. Every single part is edible. The leaves taste like spinach, the flowers like mushrooms, the roots, a tuber with 4 times the protein of a potato. But its real power is invisible. Its roots host specialized bacteria that convert nitrogen gas into solid food. It doesn't just grow in poor soil, it heals it. Yet you won't find it in a grocery store. Why? Because you can't patent a plant that refuses to die. Independence is the enemy of the quarterly report. The industry didn't need a miracle. They needed a customer, someone who buys seeds every spring and chemicals every summer. If you want to reclaim this, here is the protocol. First, source heirloom seeds. Avoid the big box retailers. They don't carry what they can't control. Second, scarify. The seed coat is a fortress. Soak them for 24 hours to signal that the siege is over. Third, give it a trellis. It wants to climb. It wants to reach the sun it uses to process that free nitrogen. Fourth, harvest young. If the pods are longer than your finger, they've already started building the next generation. The algorithm is a gatekeeper. It is making a decision right now. Does this knowledge stay buried, or does it spread to 100,000 gardens? If you believe independence is worth more than corporate revenue, hit like. Tell me your growing zone in the comments. Let's map the resistance. In the next archive, a grain that reseeds itself year after year, feeding civilizations without a single bag of store-bought seed. The archive never closes. It only waits for someone to look inside. The archive continues through you.